Buongiorno a tutti e ben ritrovati. Siamo felici di vedere questa partecipazione così numerosa al nostro tradizionale appuntamento annuale di IDEA per la presentazione del rapporto sul mercato e sui consumatori dei videogiochi in Italia. Oggi siamo qui con il nostro presidente Marco Saletta, che saluto, e i due ricercatori che hanno lavorato insieme a noi all'elaborazione dei dati che vi presenteremo oggi. Abbiamo Juan, Insausti, Alonso per Sparkers e Eduardo Mena per Ipsos Mori. Vi ricordo che al termine dei loro interventi è prevista una sessione di Q&A, per cui vi invitiamo a scriverci le vostre domande nella chat pubblica. Se possibile, indicateci anche a quale relatore volete rivolgerle e se preferite potete scriverle direttamente in italiano e poi saremo noi a tradurle per i due ricercatori. Grazie ancora e lascio la parola a Marco Saletta, presidente di IDEA.
Grazie Ilaria, buongiorno a tutti, grazie a voi della partecipazione, del tempo che come sempre dedicate a questo appuntamento che per noi è assolutamente fondamentale. Grazie anche a Sparkers e Ipsos Mori per aver collaborato ancora una volta alla redazione di questo rapporto che crediamo darà degli insight importanti su come l'industria del videogame sta progredendo e si sta sviluppando anche nel nostro paese. Una prima certa introduzione su cosa abbiamo fatto noi come IDEA nel 2021. Un dato assolutamente rilevante, siamo riusciti come IDEA a mobilitare le coscienze di chi fa politica in Italia rispetto al tema dei videogiochi e abbiamo raccolto 9 milioni di euro di investimenti pubblici da tax credit First Variable Fund da destinare all'industria. È un numero importante, non siamo ancora ovviamente contenti, già abbiamo saputo che l'investimento, il supporto al tax credit il prossimo anno sarà più che raddoppiato, quindi ancora una volta una grande apertura della politica nei confronti del nostro mondo, ma siamo convinti che possiamo fare ancora di più per supportare l'industria. Fronte interno, nuovi 20 soci che sono entrati in IDEA, benvenuti a tutti, grazie della fiducia che date al lavoro che sta facendo IDEA perché ci crediamo e crediamo che più siamo e più contiamo. Abbiamo sviluppato 5 studi di ricerca, abbiamo lavorato su 2 eventi business, uno è il First Playable e l'altro è Round One, con la partecipazione di oltre 200 aziende per più di 600 meeting one-to-one per poter provare a liberare le energie degli sviluppatori e dei team e degli organizzatori in Italia di sport anche nei confronti di stakeholder internazionali. Abbiamo fatto una missione all'estero dedicata agli sport dopo anni di stop complessivo di tutte le manifestazioni in persona. Abbiamo accompagnato 14 aziende italiane all'Esport Bar di Cannes, abbiamo aperto in collaborazione con le regioni 2 acceleratori dedicati al mondo del game per un totale di circa 720.000 euro di investimenti pubblici che arriveranno agli sviluppatori italiani a supporto della nostra industria per un totale di 13 team di sviluppo partecipanti. Parliamo della regione Lazio e della regione Emilia-Romagna. Iniziamo a entrare nel merito del rapporto, velocemente io vi accenno qualche numero, poi i ricercatori vi daranno ulteriori informazioni. Ancora una volta nel 2021 il giro d'affari del nostro mercato cresce. Dopo la crescita incredibile registrata lo scorso anno, anche purtroppo a seguito del lockdown e quindi del fatto che gli italiani si erano ritrovati dentro casa, un altro anno importante, una crescita del 3% verso il 2020, trainata in maniera importante dalla crescita dell'hardware e con un dato del software comunque flat. Quindi la domanda di hardware rimane molto alta, chiaramente gli italiani sono votati al videogame e cercano console di nuova generazione PC per una crescita del comparto che sfiora quasi i 2.300 miliardi. I videogiocatori in Italia abbiamo registrato un piccolo arretramento, siamo a 15 milioni e mezzo di player in Italia. Chiaramente questo ce lo aspettavamo, devo dire, perché lo scorso anno chiaramente in molti sono ritrovati a giocare per spendere il tempo all'interno delle mura domestiche, però il numero è importante perché comunque parliamo del 35% della popolazione italiana che continua a videogiocare e continua a videogiocare in maniera molto, molto attiva. L'engagement, il numero di ore settimanali con cui noi giochiamo, con cui ci dedichiamo ad un fenomeno che è di intrattenimento, ma che è sempre più un fenomeno anche sociale, fatemi dire. Questo è forse il risvolto più interessante del trend che registriamo in questi anni. Dicevo, mediamente gli italiani giocano 8,7 ore rispetto alle 8 ore dell'anno precedente. Prossima chart. Un outlook su quelle che saranno le nostre priorità per il 2022. Continueremo, come vi dicevo in apertura, a supportare l'industria anche nei confronti degli stakeholder della politica italiana, rafforzando il rapporto con le istituzioni. Continueremo, abbiamo già pianificato anche per quest'anno l'evento per gli sviluppatori, per i developer italiani. Continueremo a favorire lo sviluppo degli sport sia attraverso un evento live che attraverso tutta una serie di attività che stiamo pianificando con team e organizzatori, e ci continueremo ad impegnare per promuovere anche in Italia il concetto del gioco responsabile. Questo è il nostro programma di lavoro su 4 direttrici: studi e ricerche, eventi, appuntamenti istituzionali e missioni internazionali. Studi e ricerche, oggi siamo a marzo, abbiamo già pubblicato la nuova guida per gli sport. Oggi vi presentiamo il rapporto sui videogiochi. Nel mese di maggio vi daremo un'anteprima del rapporto sugli sport, per poi arrivare ad ottobre a fare un approfondimento nell'ambito di Round 1. Dal punto di vista degli eventi, vi accennavo la conferma di First Playable in presenza con l'Italian Video Games Award nel mese di luglio e Round 1 nel mese di ottobre. Dal punto di vista istituzionale, l'agenda è su 4 direttrici. Parleremo o proveremo a parlare anche in Italia di green legato al mondo dello sviluppo di videogiochi in Italia. Uno dei temi più importanti su cui l'industria si sta impegnando tantissimo è il tema della diversity e dell'inclusion, su cui fattivamente sia publisher che IDEA si stanno impegnando molto per sdoganare tutta una serie di tematiche che sono assolutamente fondamentali per dare un futuro anche a questo mondo dal punto di vista dell'inclusione e della diversità. Games in School rimane un progetto centrale tra i mesi di settembre e ottobre, e come vi dicevo prima in apertura, anche sul gioco responsabile ci impegneremo lungo tutto l'anno con una particolare attenzione nei mesi di novembre e dicembre. Sulle missioni internazionali, oggi Talita non è con noi perché è a San Francisco ad accompagnare gli sviluppatori italiani alla Games Development Conference, finalmente tornata dal vivo. Questa è una bella notizia per tutto il mondo dei videogiochi, e saremo anche a Gamescom ad agosto, compatibilmente con le restrizioni che anche in Germania sembrano voler finalmente rallentare. Questo è il panorama dei soci di IDEA a partire del 2022. Vi dicevo prima, più di 20 nuove adesioni. Noi siamo molto contenti, crediamo che stiamo iniziando a raccogliere negli ultimi 2 anni un qualcosa che è inaspettato rispetto a dove eravamo solamente 5, 6 o 10 anni fa. Siamo contenti, continuiamo a crederci, crediamo che questa possa diventare un'industria importante anche nel nostro paese. Abbiamo dei benchmark assolutamente positivi da emulare o provare a emulare intorno a noi. Vi parlo dei francesi piuttosto che dell'Olanda, piuttosto che del mercato inglese. Quindi continueremo a lavorare per fare in modo che questo paese diventi anche un paese di sviluppo di videogiochi. Bene, io ho finito, adesso lascio la parola a Eduardo Mena per i dati più di dettaglio del report. Grazie.
Sì, Marco. I think we will start just with a couple of presentations. I think I will share this one with Juan, who will start and kicking off some of the key findings from Spartacus and GSD. Juan.
Thank you for the introduction, Eduardo. Yes, we are going to start presenting the methodology that we use in GSD and Sparkers to cover the physical market and the digital market that GSD publishes. In the physical market, the GSD it works with a panel of retailers that it sends the data every week, and we extrapolate to cover the 100% of the market, and we publish weekly that data. Also, for the digital part, we have the collaboration of the publishers that they send every week their sales in the PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Nintendo eShop, and Steam. And we publish the data straight direct what we get from the publisher. So it's not, without any extrapolation, 100% accurate. And to cover 100% of the digital market, we have the collaboration of GameTrack that they extrapolated, and Eduardo will explain how they do it.
Thank you, Juan. And I think for the next slide, I think we can go more into the detail in what we do with digital. I think we take all these inputs from GSD, we extrapolate it to create the full market of the full digital, full game download market. And also we work in terms of the digital products, in this case, mobile, we work closely with App Annie. We extrapolate the data just to get the overall consumer spend instead of the revenue to app developers that is in the system. We get that in aggregation. We use the methodology from App Annie in terms of like the submission of data from the app developers, but also in terms of the revenue and the extrapolation that App Annie does. In terms of consumers, who are the players, the heart of the overall industry, as Marco was saying, I lead the GameTrack at Ipsos, and we have been working on this research from Q4 2018. Basically, we go into the market every single month and interview 1,000 people online, representative of the overall 6 to 64 population. So for the last year, we bring an overall result of more than 12,000 surveys in Italy. In addition to that, we interview once a year, face-to-face, 1,000 people, representative of the overall adult population in Italy. And that basically helped us to bring all the results from the online research into context for the Italian market. And I think in one single package, GameTrack, we bring the consumers, the players, but also the revenues from GSD, from App Annie, from all the surveys that we have done in order to create the overall size of the market. We work with IIDEA and Italy, we work with GameTrack. We do not only run in Italy GameTrack, but we run across the main European markets, US and Russia. So with this, I think, Juan, you are going to be in the next slide just to unveil the key findings for this year, 2021.
So we're going to start with the total turnover generated by the video game market in 2021 was over 2.2 billion euros, with an increase of 2.9 compared to the previous year. It might look that the growth of 2.9 is not very relevant, but we have to take into account that the previous year, the market grew by 33%. So by increasing that 33%, have another growth in 2021, for me, is something that is really a good performance for the country and really well done by the publishers and retailers. If we take into consideration where it comes all the turnover, we see that from software is 80%, that is a volume of 1,800 million, with an increase of 0.9 compared to 2020. In hardware, we can see that the increase is higher by 12.1% compared to the previous year, and this represents a market share of the total market of 20%. If we go to the next slide, please. We can see that the hardware, we have two subcategories, that is consoles and accessories. So when we see that the consoles, it represents 72% of the total market segment for hardware, and is the one who has driven the segment thanks to the new generation of consoles. This makes the consoles increase by 16% compared to the previous year. And if we see the accessories represent 28% of the market share for the market segment, and also increase it 3.3. Also, that increase is thanks to all the new accessories that the publishers have sent to the market, thanks to the new generation of consoles. If we have a deep look on the consoles, we can see the majority of the sales, it comes from home consoles with a 93.4%. and an increase of 21.6. In this market share, like the home consoles also are the new generation. So we can see the biggest increase by far is by 21.6. And if we check the handheld, it only represents 6.6, and we can see a drop of 30%. It might seem a bad performance, but we have to take into account that we are comparing the figure with the year of the release of the Nintendo Switch Lite. So in 2019 was released the Nintendo Switch Lite, and also in 2020 the OLED version was released as a replacement, and the OLED version counts as home console. So it might look that it's a big drop, but also it's a lot of the sales are moving to a more premium version of the Nintendo Switch. Then if we check the software part, we can see that the biggest income comes from the digital, from consoles and PCs, with 771 million. Then it's followed by apps with 762 million, and the apps are also increasing compared to increasing compared to 2020, and year by year they are always increasing, so they are always have a better performing to the previous year. And this is in 2020, it happened again. And the physical market is the last one with 267 million. And we can see that for the software, for the digital and the physical, a small decrease. So as we've seen in software, that it has that small decrease is caused by the lack of the AAA releases, as publishers are waiting for a larger installed console base in the market. And also the delays by the COVID, like Elden Ring was not released last year and released this year. And in my opinion, when the new generation has completed decade over the old generation, we expect a significant growth for the software category, for the digital part and the physical part. Yes, and we have the top 20 most sold games. And another year, we can see the top 3 is repeated. In the first place, we have the new generation of FIFA. In the second place, again, we have GTA 5, the game that never dies. And the third place we can have the FIFA, the old version, that we have the exact same situation in the previous year. The rest of the top 20, it comes from different publishers. So what I can see that is that this top 3, again, we have it on the market, and Electronic Arts is always again performing the best on the market in 2021. Then we can move to the next one. This part is going to present Eduardo, so I'll let him keep going.
Thank you, Juan. Very interesting view of the market, and it's, as you say, remarkable actually how the market shifted in terms of the overall spend from software to hardware in this year, and actually gives the overall position and movement and momentum is very positive in terms of revenue. Right now, in terms of the players, I think we have been in the market from Q4 2018, as I say, and we have seen evolution of the gamer base. Basically, back in Q4 2018, we saw around 37% of the overall population. It slowly moved and increased to 39% in Q4 2019. It's been totally stable through the year, but for the last one, we have seen a small drop of around to 35% of the overall population. And when we talk about the overall population, we refer to the 6 to 64 in Italy, which is around 44 million people. So that actually equals that the overall player base in Italy is around 15.5 million, a small drop of 1.2 million players year on year. Is not something to worry. I think the main question that everyone will have, like, who are those players that are actually being dropped? And what we know from our research since then is that they are less engaged players, those who used to play at least once per month. So they just basically deepen into the app or into the casual game that they used to play on a PC, on a console, no more than once per month. And as we move away from the COVID restrictions, or life comes back, these people drop from the market, and it leaves us to an overall very engaged base of 15.5 players. This loss was slightly stronger in males than females, around 700,000 less players in the market. And also it was really marginally distributed among the 15 to 44. Something that we know, it was stronger among the smart device players, those who play on a smartphone or tablets. So that's where the strongest loss of players was seen. Nevertheless, as Juan said, apps keeps overperforming and was the only format that was able to match and actually be on top by a growth of 8% versus what app revenue meant last year, the COVID year. So that's relatively impressive just due to the smaller base of app players, but more engaged and more monetizable. So that's a market that is still evolving in Italy. So if we move to the next one. So yes, we got 15.5 million players, but at overall level, the overall profile in terms of gender and age is still very similar, if not exactly the same as last year. So we're talking about 56% of these 16 million players being males versus 44 who are female. And this is the distribution of age within gender that you can see. It's very even, but something that is very clear is when you look at the 15 to 24s and the 45 to 64, one in four players in Italy are either 15 to 24s or 45 to 64. So it means that there is basically pretty much polarized in terms of the ages where gaming has the largest base. 50% of the overall player population in Italy are within these two age bands, and they are very similar in terms of age, as you can see. Something that is important is which are the key devices that those players actually play. So in the 15 to 24, consoles is very important, and actually the resurgence of consoles due to the PS5 and Xbox Series has been very important this year. But also among the 45 to 64 is PC, but more importantly and growing in terms of engagement is app gaming devices. So the overall profile is still very similar, but is polarized, and there is potential to grow the engagement with the category, particularly among the 25 to 44s. So if we move to the next one, here we see a lot of data in terms of the summaries of the people and which devices are first the most popular, but also as well where they peak in terms of the genders. To start, home consoles, we have around 6.9 million people playing on those devices in Italy. Relatively stable, a small growth of, last year we were reporting 6.8 million players there. I think what has happened is the console, and it's represented, and we have seen this across Europe, is a very stable base of players, but what the biggest movement has happened, last year we were reporting around 300,000 people who used to play PS5 and Xbox Series. That base had increased to 1.1 million. On consoles, the bias towards females and males is stronger. 61% of the console players are male. That equals around 4.2 million players versus 2.7 million who are female. More importantly, we see that growth of PS5 and Xbox Series, and it's not at the cost or expense of PS4 Xbox One players. They are renewing and changing, and that is evolving the console and renewing their devices. Also, very importantly, is the Switch, where we estimate that we got around 2.3 million players in Italy playing those devices, and we saw 3 very important Nintendo titles within the top 11 of the list for the most consumed or bought games that Juan just did. Handhelds, we estimate that it's around 1.4 million. 1 in 10 players play on these devices, and a huge majority, 61% of them, are within the ages of 6 to 14. So there is still audience for them, but it's the younger kids, and basically the decision makers there are the parents. PC, on the other hand, the same numbers as the console. It's around 44% of the players play on these devices. It's been losing a little bit of traction across Europe, but in Italy it's still being remarkably stable. We lost just marginally numbers versus last year. The overall profile is 59% female versus 41%, 59% male versus 41% female. And without any question, the biggest bubble in the chart is about smart devices. It's still being the most popular devices, not only in Italy, but across Europe. It's being played by around 60% of the overall population in Italy, like 58 to be exact. That equals around 9 million people. It was more popular last year. The heaviest losses we saw, we were seeing basically like 1.5 million players less on these devices, but we're looking more revenue, 8% more revenue on app gaming, 762 million these players are actually spending or spend in 2021 on app games. The most important one is this is the device that tends to be more balanced in terms of gender, 53 male versus 47 female. And in most countries of Europe, actually this is 50-50. And in some ones, actually, there are more female players than males. So if there is a device that had the potential to bring kind of this equal gender across, is smart devices at overall level. And Android is the key OS within this device. If we move to the next one, I think the very nice story, as Marco was saying at the beginning, is about not only the money or just the small drop that we have seen amongst the players, but it's about the engagement that these nearly 16 million players in Italy are having with the category. We have been looking and asking the question about how many hours do you play on individual devices, but also or at overall level. And we have seen that back in Q4 2018, players used to play around 6.7 hours per week on across devices, on consoles, on PC, on smartphones. That increased to the next year to 7.4. And as we were hit by COVID restrictions, actually that actually jumped to 8 hours per week. So that's an incredible increase. But it didn't stop there, even after the COVID restriction just stopped, as we have seen through 2021. And actually the engagement kept increasing, and right now is going and aging 9 hours per week. So the last rate that we have in Q4 2021 is players are playing on average 8.7 hours per week. And you can see that the highest increase there, it was just down to Q4, where we see kind of this is a very seasonal market at overall level, the video game market. And actually it helps and explain why the overall market is big, the overall growth is seen in hardware. So if we move to the next one, we have seen that this is pretty much pushed by all devices, 8.7, but particularly amongst console players, those console play around 8 hours per week. We can see the list of devices, and we can see the PS5 is already creating a noise, matching particularly the Xbox Series, nearly 3-4 hours per week just within the last quarter. Switch is definitely creating an impact among the 2.3 million people who are playing those devices. PC is being played by around 4 hours per week, and smart devices, snacking on the train, on the bus station, it takes an overall 5.2 hours per week. And that's the time that have increased, and that's the maintained monetization and the magic of the smart devices. And if this is the picture that we have in the last quarter, but when we look at the overall trend by these key devices, and if we move to the next slide, the story is very clear. We have seen that console actually from Q4 2018, it moved from 5.3, 5.6, 6.9 to be now the kind of the leading device driving the engagement from the overall player population in Italy. And all console players on average play around 8.2 hours. And that happened at the same time that the smart devices and PC are very stable in terms of engagement, playing around from 4 to 5 hours per week. And that's a remarkable story. And what it feels, as Juan is saying, like the console feels in a positive momentum to end up the 2021 with a renewal base, but actually titles being lined up for a strong 2022. And I think this is the magic of the new devices and this engagement base of console players, which basically seems that 2022 could be even larger than 2021. And it's a good beginning of this never-ending story that is the video game market in Italy. Hopefully I present, and if you have any question, more than happy to answer them.
Grazie Edoardo. Prima di iniziare la sessione di Q&A volevo ricordarvi che al termine dell'evento condivideremo con tutti il rapporto completo ovviamente e il comunicato stampa che vi abbiamo appunto sui dati che vi abbiamo presentato oggi, per cui vi invitiamo a mandarci delle domande per i ricercatori o per il nostro Presidente e saremo felici appunto di rispondere. Non siate timidi.
We have been extremely clear.
Maybe your presentation was very good, Eduardo.
No, Juan and Marco. My Italian is, yeah, but I need to travel more to Italy to improve it.
Okay, so we have a question. How many PC players do we have in Italy?
Oh, I remember the slide. It was around 44% of the overall population. The exact number will be, if I'm not wrong, is 6.9 million players, which is exactly the same as the number of consoles. And yes, it's a strong base. They are still playing on those on PC at overall level. The most important thing that we have seen at European level is that some ways PC is losing traction within the player base and is generating in terms of monetization start to be hit by PC gamers. And I think, as you will see, like PC players tend to also play on console and smart devices. And that's where, as soon as you start sharing the time, you start sharing the wallet. And that's what we have seen.
Okay, we have also another question. How many gamers play both mobile and console?
How many players play, sorry?
Both mobile and console.
Oh, I do have the number. Just give me a second. Because actually later on I will present the same results, but for our game research. And the magic number that you're asking for is out of the 6.9 million people who play PC, around 3.6 million also play on a smart device, and 2.7 also play on console. And I think players are not going to be like a single 1 or 0 when we talk to devices.
Yeah.
I play video games, I play on the smart, I play app games, I play my console. I used to play PC. So then they snack, and there are also about the intellectual property available on those devices. You have the exclusive for consoles, you have the snacks and the puzzle games that you would like to play when you're on the train, and you have always the multiplayer online games that are basically the PC driven. So yeah, these are the numbers.
Okay, there's another question, maybe for both of you guys. I'd like to understand if the numbers related to the portable devices include Switch Lite.
That's very interesting.
Okay, and
yes,
okay, no, go Juan.
Yes, the Nintendo Switch Lite is counts as a portable device. It's the only Switch that it counts. The rest of the versions of the Nintendo Switch, it counts as home. And there is more products related to portable. But the main one and the most representative, we can say that is the Lite version of the Nintendo Switch.
And I think in terms of how gamers interpret, like that's why we used to interpret the category like console and portable. But right now, as software is interchangeable between the Switch Lite and the Switch that you can have at home, portable, larger version. We just basically create this consolidated version of console/portables, just to ease the stuff.
Okay, so another one is when you say that a certain number of people played in 2001 with console rather than with PC, are you referring to the platform that is most used in the year by the person?
When basically you're talking about like people making the decision between playing PC and console.
Mm-hmm.
I think something that we say like we don't ask particular question about the most use, but we ask particular questions about the gaming time that they spend on, or the time they invest playing on console or PC. And that's basically the main insight that we have seen, particularly in Q4 2021, which we saw the gaming time on console peak and just drive the overall engagement in the gaming market. PC is still very relatively stable, are playing around 4 to 5 hours per week, PC players, but console is actually just driving that particular strong engagement with the overall gaming category.
Okay, they are also asking which are the official criteria you use to consider a gamer as an active gamer.
We asked the very general question, like, have you played games in the past year? But we asked in terms of gaming time, if they have played within the last week, within the last month, or less often than a month. So then basically at overall level, the overall incidence of gaming is very broad, like watching TV is like you do watch TV at all, but the intensity of watching TV defines the real engagement of the watching TV or playing video games.
Okay, so as the video game generation gets older, do you estimate that this will imply also older population segments will be playing more in the future?
That's the magic golden question. Consoles have been in the market for more than 20 years. And correct me if I'm wrong, Marco, I used to play the PS1 when I was certainly younger, around 20 years younger. So then definitely, as the years pass by, the gaming seems to increase. We will never reach 100%, even like 50 or 100 years. There is always going to be a rejection. There is going to be things that you need to be at home. The time is always limited. But as generations move on and technology keeps creeping up, as basically I wasn't expecting my mother playing app games on the smart device, but she does. So definitely there is potential to keep expanding the video game base in every single country worldwide.
Okay, also on this topic, Eduardo, someone is asking, do you know per age range which kind of game genre other than platform is played more?
That depends on the device. And that's very, very good question. I think within our game track, we cover those particular questions about genre. And in Italy, particularly for consoles, something I can say is the sweet spot is like where lots of console players play it and they play for longer is action, adventure, and sports. And you will see that in the top GSD titles, you see like 2 FIFA titles, 2 Call of Duty's GTA. But when we talk amongst PC players and those games that are very popular on PC, yeah, they have shooter sport games, but also kind of not played by many, but played for long. It's about role play and strategy. So then everything depends on the device that you're playing games. And when you're talking about app games on your smart device, definitely the spread is higher. You have brain puzzle, role play games, and trivia being the top games playing on that device. So you don't play one game, you play many, and you play many according to the occasion. So then that defines different genres by device.
Okay, and about online services, they are asking us if do you have figures for subscribers?
I imagine that for those devices you are talking about on-demand streaming services, such as PlayStation Now,
yeah,
Xbox Game Pass,
yeah,
Stadia and Arcade, and maybe some others as GeForce on PC. Definitely, we have been keeping an eye on those. Nevertheless, the overall incidence of those services in Italy is still very small. Like last year, we were estimating 1% of the overall population, 6 to 64, was subscribing to those services. But at the end of last year, actually, yeah, still low, doubled to 2%, which is around, if you estimated around 1 million people were subscribing to those services. And the larger increase we have seen in Q4 2021, which is also driven by the move to the latest console devices, PS5 and Xbox Series. Therefore, players, as soon as you kind of move to a new device, you tend to try lots of services, including those. And the overall revenue generated by that is really small compared to the 1.8 billion acquisition of software. So it's like no more than 50 million euros. So it's still being in early infancy, is moving in the right direction, but definitely we need push in terms of what is in it for the players, I think.
Okay, we do not have other questions at the moment. Lucky you.
Oh, very good questions.
Well,
and so please.
The luckiest was Marco, because Marco, ti è andata bene, non hai risposto a nessuna domanda oggi.
Sono stati bravissimi, grazie Juan, grazie Eduardo.
Sei stato il più chiaro di tutti. Vediamo se arriva qualche altra domanda all'ultimo secondo. Attendiamo i più timidi. altrimenti niente, non arrivano. Per cui direi che insomma vi possiamo ringraziare tutti per l'attenzione, ringraziamo soprattutto il nostro presidente Marco Saletta, Eduardo e Juan che sono stati qui con noi e hanno insomma elaborato i dati che vi abbiamo presentato oggi. Vi ricordo appunto che al termine dell'evento li manderemo a tutti, per cui avrete la possibilità di sfogliare il rapporto completo. Se avete delle domande noi siamo qui, per cui potete scriverci ai nostri contatti, in particolare a info@ideassociation.com e vi invitiamo anche a seguirci su tutti i nostri canali social. Quindi, grazie
Grazie a tutti.
Grazie a tutti.
Grazie mille.
Grazie e a presto.